Are we live?
We are live.
This is attempt number 2 for the day of Martinis with Scott. Now, this is important. I can only do 3 attempts if I'm having a martini per attempt.
Yeah. Are we having full martinis today? Tito's? Great brand.
We're having a full martini, but we're not having an Ashley martini. We're not having a 5-ounce martini.
Yeah.
We're having a proper 3 ounces. Is that about right, Ashley?
3.5, 4 ounces.
3.5, 4?
We'll try to put it down to 3.
Try and get the energy level up here. It's true.
Fresh olives.
Fresh olives. Well, I hope people are joining us, and welcome to Martinis with Scott, attempt number 2. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ashley.
No problem.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers if you're having a drink. Oh, that's good. So we did about 10 minutes of this before, but this POS platform, Periscope, keeps crashing on us. So we'll see. We're going to give this another shot, and if this doesn't work, we're going to do it just pre-recorded and put it up on our YouTube channel. So we have YouTube that you can subscribe to. We have iTunes podcasts.
Yep.
You can subscribe to. Those are the 2 big ones right now, and of course Periscope, which is what we're on right now. How's the quality, Ashley? Is it working?
Right now we're okay.
Okay, if it breaks down, let me know. Okay, let's not go on for a whole martini.
But beyond YouTube and iTunes, these are posted on our website, sinclairrange.com.
Right. Brought to you, Martinis with Scott, brought to you by sinclairrange.com. No, that's not true. Brought to you by Sinclair Range. And you can find us at sinclairrange.com. I'm going to skip the commercial part of this. I'm going to welcome Olga Jilani, who's Vice President of Sinclair Range.
Hi, everyone.
And Olga had a number of questions this week about, and comments and just observations about brands in particular. And we thought that we would focus this podcast on a rambling discussion about branding and maybe bring this into some ideas for you in your business and how to brand and focus in particular. As usual, we are brought to you from the Sinclair Range office in Toronto, looking up beautiful Bay Street. That's the home of the Raptors right there. It used to be the home of the Leafs, but they're dead to me. So the Raptors are right here. And with that, Olga, let's get at it.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on how we got to this topic. We regularly receive investor presentations, corporate decks from a number of companies, and specifically since cannabis is hot, they're from cannabis startups who want to go big and develop some sort of brands in the space, not just growers or processors, but later stage in the line. And we received a few this week, and I looked through all of them, I read through all of them, and one thing that stood out to me is that they all want to launch 10 to 15 brands immediately because they want to pursue all these markets, whether it's pets and kids and topicals and skincare and...
Are they 15 brands or 15 products or both?
There are 15 products, 15 product lines.
Within a brand?
Within a brand.
Right.
Although most of them have different names that are completely unrelated to each other.
Well, those are different brands.
Different brands with different product lines that they want no association there. Yeah, sorry, good, important distinction. And I asked Scott, I said, this seems like a lot. I understand that the industry's hot. There's a lot to be taken right now. The market's completely open. You can have whatever you want if you want to be the first to get there. I understand the enthusiasm, but to me it seems like you're just throwing green and hope something hits. What I would have done was go, and it's kind of our strategy at Sinclair Range, to pursue maybe 3 different areas at the same time to focus more. So this is kind of how this conversation came about. Not kind of, this is exactly how this conversation came about and how this topic came to this podcast. So we wanted to talk about, Scott has a good degree in marketing. I do not.
I do. I do have a degree in marketing. That was a long time ago.
Right.
It's probably changed. I did my marketing degree before computers.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
No.
They
literally,
don't want to.
when I started, they literally had punch cards.
Okay.
You programmed on some sort of card.
Measuring brand impact.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, things have changed.
Show of hands. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In our test run of this for 10 minutes on the failed Periscope, which also did not exist when I took my marketing degree.
Yeah.
Periscope, that is. We talked about my exposure to tech back in the 90s. And I was in Ottawa and I launched a corporate finance boutique firm by the name of Merchant Capital. Probably became the number one small boutique tech investment banking corporate finance house. In Canada at the time, they called Ottawa Silicon Valley North. And we just did a ton of venture capital type deals. And it was the same as the Canada space is the point. You'd see tech entrepreneurs, software, telecom come in.
Yeah.
And they have a cool new technology because they're engineers or technologists or scientists, whatever. And they come up with this thing, same in biospace. They come up with this idea and they say, okay, I got this new trick, this new bell and whistle. So this is applicable to 800 vertical markets. And my whole deck is about, my whole business plan, not just a deck, is about these vertical markets and how my idea is applicable within those. And I'm going to go after each one of these because I just can't decide which one I might be successful in.
That's what usually drives it, right? Not even
And I'm going to take my $50,000 of seed capital and I'm going to go after every one of these markets without a salesperson or a travel budget or anything. And when I meet with you, my prospective customer, and you're in oil and gas, I might tell you how my idea is applicable to oil and gas, but I'm certainly going to tell you how it's applicable in medical.
Yeah.
Right? Or something that's completely irrelevant to you because I have zero focus. Right? And I'm more impressed with my idea than I am worried about you as a customer and what you might need. So you see that in tech. You did a bunch of work with us in the UAV space. Unmanned aerial vehicles, think drones. Right, so, and same issue. Right, so every new industry, every new technology, this is what you get. And the people that succeed, in my mind, are either, or they come from one of two categories. One is they were first to raise all the capital.
Took all the money off the table.
And so they could, in fact, go after every single market and become a dominant player. They could afford to do that. Or they had some resources available to them and they hyper-focused and dominated one relevant space. Right? So it's about focus.
It's an exchange of breadth to depth, right? So if you're going to go for everyone, you can't go deep for your customer and actually close sales and dominate within that niche. So I think that comes out in every hot market that you have people who really want to just throw the grenade and see what hits and go from there. So branding's our topic, and what is a brand?
Right. So before we answer that, I was in an Uber on the way here, which I think is a great brand.
Not the best IPO stock, but
pricing may have been off.
May have,
but it doesn't make it a bad brand. And the whole point of a good brand is that it will recover from that. Right? That's the point. And so I was Googling while I was in the back of my Uber on my laptop. I was, what is a brand? How do you create a brand? What is it? Just to see. And the very top post made me laugh so much that I've printed it out for us here. I'm going to go through the list. Number 1, research your target audience and your competitors. Number 2, pick your focus and your personality.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Personality.
Number 3, choose your business name. All right.
A rose by any other, yeah.
So, it's got you working through, and obviously this is not for an established business. Same thing to your target market.
You haven't defined a product, so you don't know what you're selling yet.
That's right. Pick your focus and your personality. I don't even know what that means, right? I think what they're trying to get at there is you're segmenting out your market, and you're looking at what are the key success factors within that market and how you best apply. Business name, slogan, choose the look of your brand, bracket, colors and font. And then your logo, and then brand that across. So this is what made me laugh, is I've started a bunch of businesses. We work with people that launch businesses, entrepreneurs, people who've been around and they're redesigning and sort of relaunching or rebranding. And if you talk to marketing firms, and I put that in air quotes,
Yep.
and they're going to build your website, they're going to set up your social media accounts, they're going to do your logo, they're going to choose your font for whatever you're doing, and they're going to give you a look or feel, and then they're going to call that a brand. All right. But what is that brand? What message is that brand sending? And nobody in these marketing firms really puts any thought into this. And most entrepreneurs don't put much thought into this. They haven't done their market strategy, their competitive strategy. They haven't defined what that is. And your brand is a way to focus and communicate that market strategy to your customers. So what is a brand? I don't think there's any hard definition that everybody agrees on what a brand is. It's one of these words that means different things to different people. But what I want you to think about is from the perspective of an outsider. So if we're talking about a business, you're talking about customers, prospective customers, people at large in the population. It is their emotional connection or their feeling, their deep down intrinsic feeling towards your business, your product, whatever the object is.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the essence of a brand, is that feeling.
And one of the leaders in branding, I think no one's going to argue with this, is Procter & Gamble, and the way their branding structure, the pinnacle of it is that their customers are usually women. Their target customers are women for most of their products because they're home goods. And the feeling that they want to evoke in a woman that interacts with their brand, whether it's through advertising or it's through a website or what have you, is that she should feel vulnerable. Not sad, not insecure, but vulnerable, which is when she is most open to suggestion of making a purchase, specifically with your product. So if you want to go back, we should have probably looked this up when we had the moment. Whatever the year of the Vancouver.
We need a full-time producing Googler fact checker during this, right? Do you ever listen to Rogan or to any one of these guys that do this for a living?
Yeah.
And they have people that say, hey, Jamie, what is that?
Right, they have people.
The fact on this.
They have people, yeah. Vancouver Olympics, if you want an example of what the visual of that is, the Vancouver Olympics, Procter & Gamble did a tribute to all the athletes' moms and how they inspired them and drove them to all these practices, and watch that ad. I'm sure it's on YouTube. And that is exactly what not a dry eye.
It creates that mother-baby,
mother-child
connection.
Relationship, and it's not a sad one. It's just so sentimental. It creates a vulnerability in anyone who watches it, but predominantly women who make purchasing decisions for their households.
You know, I wasn't thinking about this, but you just reminded me of something I really enjoyed reading about brands and product placement and that emotional connection. Ashley, we did a Periscope podcast on routines, and I promoted. I didn't really promote, but I was giving due reference to a book on habits, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I love that.
Power of Habits.
Power of Habits is one of my favorite business books ever. So that would have been episode, I don't know, whatever, 4, 5, 6. Look it up, somewhere in that range, right?
3. I think
Three.
it's 3.
That's in the range.
Yeah. 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. See, because you're thinking positive
Yeah.
progression. Yeah. And in that book, it talks about what is the spray. I think it's from Procter & Gamble. The spray product. No,
Febreze?
for smell.
Yeah, Febreze.
Yes.
And they tell a story about that. I'm certain it's in that book. And so the scientists people at Procter created this product, and it chemically gets rid of smell. Mm-hmm. It gets into it's a chemical compound.
It doesn't kill bacteria, but it hits your nose. Yeah.
No, it changes the chemical compound of the smell, right? So it doesn't smell.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not
And
repulsive.
it is scientifically an extraordinarily effective product. You can take that to a pile of whatever. The original product. I don't know about the current free press. Right. Okay, to the original product. You could take that to whatever, and it eliminates the smell by attacking it chemically. Okay, cool product.
Very.
Right. So P&G thought, well, housewives and women are going to use this in their homes to get rid of bad smells, and as part of their cleaning process, and they started marketing it that way. They give a lot more detail that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Complete failure. Nobody cared. How did they fix it? The way they fixed it is they put the Febreze itself is completely odorless. They put a little perfumey smell in it, right? And what it turns out is the housewife in that day that was cleaning didn't use it to clean. What she used it for was when she was done cleaning, she did a little spray in the room and created this smell, which emotionally created a sense of a job well done.
I think that book is Blink.
No, it wasn't Blink. I've never read Blink.
I think it's a Malcolm Gladwell book.
It's not. I've never read it.
It could be. That example could be in multiple areas. Yeah.
But the point is, it ties into that
for sure
emotional connection, right? And that's that's extraordinarily important in brands.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's excuse me. Let's talk about so humans process things with our brains. Okay, with everything. So if I were to give you some examples, or let's talk about one. And so we're sitting here in Canada on Bay Street, and yesterday Conrad Black got a full presidential pardon. So top of mind. So when I say to you, Conrad Black, what do you think?
Fraud.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you had an emotional reaction to that name. I could see it in your face. Right?
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not.
Exactly.
Right? Because I think a lot of us might argue that if you actually dug into the case, there was a lot of railroading going on there. And I'm not trying to argue that one way or the other. The point I'm trying to make is that you, because I know you, and we didn't talk about this before, you would have an immediate emotional reaction to that name. What is the lesson from that? I think there's two lessons. One is that's how we process information. Because it's really hard for our brains to think, okay, Conrad Black, and then start listing out, he's a guy from Toronto, he was in the newspaper business, and he did this, and he became Lord Black, and that's just too much. So we get this emotional connection as a shortcut to all of that information. Do you agree?
Well, you remember the endings, right?
It's not just the ending. This is not the end. I mean, he served his time. He was a model prisoner. He taught.
But it was the end of his business career at that.
It's not the end of his business career. He's doing a bunch of stuff right now. It's what you remember because you've created this picture for yourself. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's just how human brains work. Okay, that's his brand.
Yeah.
Which is the lesson number 2 out of this, is that the market, the public, brands you. Okay? Outsiders can brand you. So what are you doing when you're branding your business? You're directing that. Because if you become known, you're going to be known for something.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a product, a business, a podcast, or a lamppost. You're going to get branded by the people that are paying attention to you. right?
Yeah, the receptors.
So let me give you another example. Jeb Bush.
I don't have a strong emotional connection to Jeb Bush.
But what do you think of?
Well, the Bush name, right?
You think of the Bush name? Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton.
Think of the Clinton name.
Okay. So Jeb Bush was, people don't remember this, he was the leading Republican candidate during the nominations. People like Jeb. He's a good guy. He did a decent job in Florida. He was thought of as the smart Bush one, the smart Bush brother.
Yeah.
Right? He was good.
Pronounced nuclear.
Trump came along and he called him low energy Jeb. And if you think of Jeb Bush today, that's what you think of. You don't even necessarily think of the word low energy. You just think of a sleepy kind of guy who wasn't up for the job, wasn't able to work hard enough, wasn't a hustler. That's what you think of. All right? And I'm not saying that's who Jeb Bush is, but that's who he's branded as. All right? He didn't brand himself. Right?
Yeah.
He was branded by an outside force.
So I think you brought up a really good point that way. Someone can brand you, but does that mean you have no control of your brand? And how do you call that a negative spin?
Right? And so I think the answer to that is truth and focus. Okay? And this is really important. So let's take low energy Jeb, crooked Hillary, which is the same thing. I mean, she was going to be president.
It's name calling, yeah.
And but it's branding. Like, it's, so for example, Jeb Bush, somebody who liked Jeb could have called him high energy Jeb. Do you think that would have worked? Do you think calling Hillary super honest Hillary would have worked? And the answer is no, because it's not truthful.
Well, I think negative sticks better.
No, I don't think it's a negative thing.
Let me put it this way. If you're at a bar and everybody's watching the game, are people going to, strangers, are they going to bond over a win or a bad ref call?
A win.
I think it's a bad ref call with strangers.
I don't think you're watching a lot of sports in bars.
Plenty, all the time. Going to one right now. Incorrect. Bad branding.
So the point being, the lesson I want you to take here is that that it's an emotional connection, and outsiders will do this to you. Okay, if you don't direct your brand, and if you don't win the perception war or the branding war, the outsiders are going to brand it for you.
I have a good one for you. Off politics and off individuals. Do you remember Netflix when Netflix first came around and Blockbuster's reaction to Netflix?
No.
So Twitter was around, and Blockbuster.
If I can interrupt you for a second, this is a little known fact about Olga, is eventually every conversation comes around to Blockbuster.
It does not. It does not. It mostly comes around to Netflix.
What is your secret dream?
Sorry?
Your secret dream.
That Blockbuster comes back?
Yes.
No.
You want to reopen a Blockbuster.
No, I don't. There's
You
one.
do.
I'm going to visit it. That's my secret dream.
Okay.
No, Blockbuster, when Netflix came out, and it was first of all, it didn't nearly have as much content as it does now. It was a lot less expensive. It didn't have the same reach. It was this new kind of idea. I mean, you could, mailing DVDs back and forth was a thing, but watching them on your screen through a subscription without any commercials was novel and innovative. And Blockbuster had a massive retail footprint. It was an experience. They built a feeling around it, and they were going to crush Netflix. And they effectively, you can actually look up this tweet that they put out a contest to knock Netflix, and the winner would get Blockbuster for a year. So every couple,
Really?
every once a year on the anniversary of this tweet, it's like a throwback Thursday to this one.
So basically, they were promoting Netflix. That would have the exact opposite effect of
No,
what
but they wanted to have a negative. So they were,
I know they wanted to,
right.
but instead what they did in the realm of persuasion is they helped to make Netflix a thing.
So what they were really doing to themselves in terms of communicating their branding is that they wanted to stay low tech. On a tech platform, when the world, Twitter users were probably going to be using Netflix and they were going to be using Blockbuster, right? They're already on a mobile platform. They wanted to brand Netflix as a fad, whereas they didn't realize that Netflix was branding them as being outdated, incredibly expensive compared to their own model, and inconvenient. They were branding Blockbuster a dinosaur.
I once bought a company from a family.
That was a great example, but
It was
let's go back
good.
to Scott's, yeah.
It was good. But I'm going to focus on the fad for a minute because
Sure.
I like it. I once bought a company from a family, and they wouldn't give it to the son of the family because this was in the 1990s, and he felt very strongly that the internet and Starbucks were going to be fads.
Okay. Okay.
It sounds like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like realistic.
Okay, where are we?
I'm done with my Blockbuster.
You're done with the Blockbuster story?
I'm done with the Netflix story, yeah.
All right. So the lessons what we got so far is that what is a brand? It's an emotional connection. You're going to have a brand, whether you define it or not.
Yeah.
Because outsiders can do that to you. I went through some political examples. You went through the Blockbuster Netflix example. Just on the political, I came up this week with Dopey Andrew Scheer.
That needs, yeah, go ahead. The
Which
stage
I
is
liked
yours.
a lot. No, I'm not gonna focus on it. I just want to say, if you take in Canada the leader of the Conservative Party, Andrew Scheer, and you look at him side by side with Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs,
If you don't know who that is,
there's a startling.
yeah, like he probably should work at Chuck E. Cheese. Like he's got
Yeah.
a real jolly look to him.
All right, let's go through some more serious examples
Sure.
here. And this is all in the context of still answering your question. What is a brand? Coca-Cola. What does that mean to you? I mean, that's a hard thing to put words to, right?
Right, yeah. But you know what? Maybe I mean, that's maybe a definition of a really good brand. It doesn't need everybody when you say it.
But it
people
did.
already
So if
have.
you look back at the history of Coke, and it's maybe one of the world's best brands, so I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But if you go back, I think it was even around the 1800s.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Everything that Coke did was to create a brand that it was the national drink. If you were thirsty, you should have Coke. I mean, one of their slogans was "Coke is it."
Genius, yeah.
Right? I mean, it was a drink, the real one.
Yeah.
That was another one. Okay.
Everyone.
So if you were thirsty, you're going to go have a Coke. That's the brand that they created. So then Pepsi came along. And what was their brand? What do you think of when you think of Pepsi?
Lighter version of Coke.
Lighter. Isn't that interesting? So,
I can tell the difference between the two.
well, sure you can, because they taste different.
Like
One's a
completely.
lot sweeter, depending on the jurisdiction,
Yeah, it's true. It's different.
right? So, I'm not even a Coke fan, but did you know? So I was at not so long ago a burger place in New York. I don't mean last weekend, but 2-3 years ago. And their big claim to fame is they serve Mexican Coke, which is not what you sounds like as it comes out of my mouth. I mean, that might happen too, but it was lunch.
Yeah. To go for breakfast.
Yeah.
Try the eggs. Tip well.
Coca-Cola,
Here all week.
that was produced and bottled in Mexico. And the difference is that, and why? So why do you do that? Well, it's a real cane sugar. It's not a liquid,
Yeah.
unnatural sort of a bar sugar. And wow, the taste is just completely different. And I'm not even sure it's better or worse because you get so used to what you drink all the time. But it's certainly more natural. It was interesting. Anyways, we're off topic. I just seem to end up talking about Mexican Coke for some reason.
It's okay.
Pepsi, their slogan was "Pepsi is the new generation," right? So it was, yeah, Coke is it. It was your father's drink. It was your grandfather's drink.
It was a classic. Coke's a classic. Coke will actually use classic to describe themselves. I don't think Pepsi ever has.
Coke used classic when they came out with New Coke to differentiate the two, as I recall. Anyways, Pepsi came along and said, we're the new ones. So if you skateboard and you want to drink a sweet cola, but you don't want to drink what your father drinks,
Right.
right? We're Pepsi. And I don't know, that's probably still relevant in the today, not just with Coke, Pepsi, but in the energy drinks, which is the modern version of with your Monster Energy and your Rockstar Energy, which are Coke and Pepsi, I think, and then Red Bull has come along. So there's a way just to think about brands, think about the feeling behind that. What is Coke? What is Pepsi? And if you're old enough to remember Coke and Pepsi and the wars, that's what you're going to arrive at. You're going to arrive at Pepsi's the upstart.
If your definition of a war is World War II, and your definition of a war is Pepsi versus Coke,
it's a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Apple, Microsoft. I mean, what do you think of when you think of those two?
Right. Like I think that when you think of Apple, you think of the full sleek package, the one-stop shop. And when you think of Microsoft, it's kind of like it's a little bit more outdated, a little bit more adult, less fun, way less fun.
Way less fun.
Yeah. Think of Excel.
So that's why I have an Apple and you have a Microsoft.
Microsoft, that's
okay.
right.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So the point of all of this discussion so far in defining what is a brand is that it's an emotional connection, and you make that strong through focus and repetition.
Yeah.
So I started this with a joke, not a joke, but a list that I found funny from the internet about picking your colors and picking your your graphics and the company name and
It's
picking
starting
that
a
throughout.
country, you pick a flag, right? Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Right and anthem.
But that stuff is really important once you understand what you're trying to define your brand as. So the brand creates a narrative. And if it's strong enough, here's the key to all of this. If you've done it right, it becomes a cognitive bias.
You program
Okay.
into people, yeah.
So your view, in your heart, in your soul, you're thinking of Apple is that it's going to be a cool product. It's going to be sleek design. It's going to work. It's going to be cross-platform. It's going to be a subscription service that works across platforms, and it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be limited because it's not open, right?
Yeah.
And that you need to go to an Apple store to get it, and you need to talk to a genius.
You can also buy online.
No, but this is what you think of
Yes.
as a brand.
Yes.
Okay? Right? And that becomes your cognitive bias. So every single product that they come out with, your immediate thinking is that it's going to be awesome.
It's amazingly consistent.
Right? That's your prejudice. Now, if the product sucks, it's going to start fighting against that cognitive bias. But if it's marginal, because that brand exists, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
New Coke. New Coke was a horrible failure as a product, but the brand didn't really take much of a hit.
Yeah.
Because the brand was so strong and communicated, and it was so ingrained, communicated what it was supposed to communicate, it was so ingrained, and it had such strong cognitive bias, we just ignored New Coke.
You know what's interesting in that is that sticking to the original brand despite a failed product, and then when lines of product tend to go against the brand, when it's more than one, which I think is kind of back to our breadth counter argument, is that the criticism that Apple gets a lot now on these tech blogs is that they're making larger iPhones, where Steve Jobs always had this vision of making things smaller, more convenient, easier to pack away.
Tim Cook is screwing with the Apple brand.
Cook, yeah.
In a very negative way.
For sure. And that's a lot of the criticism that he's actually hindering the cornerstone of this brand that made it so great. That was the initial founding of it. That Coke was able to safeguard the brand despite failed products here and there. Whereas Tim Cook is redefining the brand in a negative way.
100%.
With a breadth of new products that go against the original focused vision.
It's more than that. I agree with that. And I have never read the tech blogs, as you can imagine.
Yep.
But it's more than that.
You're old-fashioned and function. Yeah.
Right, we're going to talk soon about 4 Ps. I think you're going to ask me about that. But that's a product and a way it feels. But pricing has become a big deal.
Yep.
With Apple. I have my laptop over here. I think that was over $4,000. That laptop.
And that's not the most expensive laptop you can get.
No.
They go more.
And these Apple stores have gone crazy. Right? So they've created what used to be a brand that was beautiful, beautifully designed, functional, worked. I love this whole subscription thing is really important. The fact that I could open my phone and my computer and right, all that sort of stuff, and my Apple TV, and it all works.
The interface is beautiful. Yeah.
It's become elitist. Like it's really become overpriced. Like this whole Apple Store thing is just a shtick. It's just a way to make it. It's like having a fake lineup at a bar. Yeah. Right, and it's I think it's a big issue, and I think they've really opened the door for Microsoft to come in with functional computers at what, $400, $800.
Yeah. And 2 laptops. You just named both price points. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a college kid,
you get the same thing. It's probably a little bit more functional. Maybe not as pretty, but you don't have to, pay tuition for it.
Right. Okay. So that was my long-winded answer to what is a brand.
Yeah.
I don't think that you could say it in a sentence or two or a paragraph. This is the definition of brand. What I'm trying to get you to do is have a feeling, because that's what it is. And if it's a strong, repetitive emphasis on that feeling, it becomes a cognitive bias, and I think that's really important.
Do you think in discussion of brands that we always talk about customers, but it's also just as important to convey a brand to your employees?
I think a brand is a brand.
Okay.
So I think that, and again, you're going to have this brand regardless. It's really important that you understand what it is that you direct it. And the way you direct it is by, it is in everything you do, right? It's in the 4 Ps, which we haven't talked about yet. It's in the feeling that you have when we talked about Apple. It's in the experience of a customer at the store. It's in the advertising. It's in the look and feel of the product. It's in the price point. It's in all of those things. And I don't think you can tell your employees, this is who we are, this is our brand.
No.
I think you have to demonstrate to them.
Precisely.
And they're going to arrive at that conclusion on their own.
Yeah, so it's just as important it's communicated to the person buying and as well as the person who's selling.
Yeah,
on
everybody.
Yeah.
And I think what you do need to do with your employees is you need to say, hey, this is who we are. And if you're a large enough organization, they already know.
It's part of your
the
culture.
Employees of Apple know who Apple is, right? And it becomes part of the culture. But your entire HR system needs to drive home the performance that's in line with the brand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So why don't we, performance is not part of the 4 Ps, but let's talk about the 4 Ps.
Well, it is. It is part of the 4 Ps. So this is how to create a brand. So we're gonna, or sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Sorry, we're going to talk about the 4 Ps. So product, promotion, price, and place. Performance is in terms of, employee performance. That's not part of the 4 Ps officially. But it might play well into it. Go ahead.
People ask how to create a brand. What should my logo be?
Yeah.
Right. The flag.
The anthem.
Start with the flag and make a country.
Exactly.
As you example. I'm looking at college students. And college students need a laptop that works and is cheap and is functional and reliable. I've just made that up, but I assume that that's sort of the case, right? Their needs in a laptop are not the same as a graphic designer professional or an animator professional who needs a lot more
horsepower
and graphics packages and all that sort of stuff, right? So you pick your market, and then you look at the key success factors within those markets, which I just described: cheap, and reliable, and function, all that sort of stuff. And you look at your ability as an organization to deliver the needs of that customer in comparison to your competitor's ability to deliver those same needs, right? So if I'm Apple, I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to sell to these people. This is how I define this market. Who else is selling to that market?
Right.
Okay, Microsoft. How am I going to be different than them? Well, within that market, within those college students, you can segment those further, right? So there's some that have a bunch of money available to them and they're living at home and they like cool stuff, and there's some that don't, right? It's not just one homogenous population.
Of course.
So you could segment within that, and you can say, okay, this is, you get down to as narrow as you can, or as narrow as you want to. You say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on, and here's where I'm stronger than my competitors, and here's where I'm weaker than my competitors. How do I compete, right? And this brings us to the 4 Ps.
Before you get there, I think what you said as the strengths and the weaknesses, this is kind of the classic SWOT analysis. I don't think people probably they don't really get the point of a SWOT analysis until someone maybe like a decade ago explained it to me what the actual value of it is. You don't just list strengths and weaknesses and threats and opportunities and you have a quadrant. Strengths.
I thought it was just taking up a slide in the deck. It's more than that?
It is.
Really?
If you do it right, and what you actually hit it, you actually got it right, unknowingly, obviously. The strength should drive.
Obviously.
The strength should drive your opportunities, and your weaknesses are the inevitable drivers of your
Or the risks. Yeah.
Right. So people put it on a slide, and all 4 of those are disconnected. Whether there should be, when it's done right, it's very useful and there's flow. So you have your strengths, then what are your opportunities driven by your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Identify what are the threats that emerge because of your weaknesses and how you address that.
Right.
That actually launches critical thinking and in a way that people never do. It's just a slide on a deck and then you move on to something else.
That's interesting. I never heard that before.
I think.
And you know what's interesting is that's what you just said that people do is the exact reason I hate SWOT analysis.
Me too, because I thought, well, okay, we did it, and then we just have no takeaway. And someone's like, no, but your strength.
I've had bankers up this street demand
all the time.
Demand SWOT analysis.
And they just file it away.
They do.
Yeah.
Right. So we just make up stuff, put it on a grid.
If it's done right, it's a very powerful tool, specifically for the 4 Ps. So let's
I have literally drawn out on whiteboards the 3 C's that I just talked about, which is customer, segmented, key success factors. Second C. Go ahead, Ash. Customers would be top of your triangle. We'll do another Periscope podcast and we'll draw this out on a whiteboard.
Yep.
So your customers, company being you, and your organization and your competitors, and it's all about what are my strengths to meet those needs, what are my weaknesses, and and it's all relative to your customer. That's the sound of martinis right there. But how you compete is your 4 Ps. Okay, and within the 4 Ps changes with modern technologies
For sure.
and understanding of consumer behavior and all that sort of stuff. But your 4 Ps are your product. Thank you. Look at that. Your product, product, price, promotion, and place. And you want to talk about bad marketing. Your 4 Ps is bad marketing because place means distribution, but they just couldn't come up with 3 Ps and a D. Or how that goes, but where do you go?
P1D.
Yeah, where do you go buy this thing at the end of the day? Okay, but
I hope my mom's not watching this. Good name for a movie. Good.
There you go. So, what I want you to think about when you think about how you compete in marketing is just think of the 4 Ps. and you can put everything into those categories. So product. So if we go back to Apple, is the product this iPhone? And if you're on the podcast, I just held up my brand new Verizon iPhone that I picked up in New York last week.
Very nice.
Very nice. Works very well.
So far.
So far, so good. Is it that? Or is it my laptop? Or is it the iPad that Ashley's filming us on? Is it my Apple TV? Is it the subscription service for all of the media that sort of flows?
Scott
through the
owns a
other
lot
things?
of Apple stuff.
I have a lot of Apple. We have a whole company full of Apple things.
Some of it's still unpackaged.
Yes, that's true. We have a lot of Apple products. Apple. I don't know if that helps too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
So, is it that? Is it, to me, I think subscription.
Yes.
I think the fact that all of those products work with each other.
Easily.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what product means to me. But the challenge here is you need to define what your product is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are you selling to people? So, brand, Volvo. Volvo, what is that product?
It's my first car. 2002 S16.
Why?
Safety.
Exactly.
And you can never look cool in one. Ever. I've tried for like 5 years. You can't do
You've
it.
been trying to look uncool for a long time.
Yeah.
You're not doing well. So there's a lot more to Volvos than safety.
And in fact, they're not even the safest car in terms of
Okay.
ratings.
But the very
position.
first thing
Yeah.
that you think of when you think of that car is you think safety.
Yeah.
That's how they define their product. Okay, so you compete on product. You compete on price. Okay? And that's relatively self-explanatory. But price doesn't mean the cheapest price necessarily. Right? So if you go buy a Porsche, that's an expensive car.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Bentley expensive,
It's also a little ugly, but
it's expensive.
yeah.
Which one's ugly, the Bentley or the Porsche?
The Porsche.
Yeah, depends on what you're getting.
All right.
Right? But if you go to the Porsche dealer, they're not going to negotiate with you,
Of course.
right? Because it goes against the brand. Right?
No discounts.
The price point reinforces the brand, and that's really important. Your promotion. Now, promotion is a huge category these days because this gets into advertising, consumer behavior, data-driven stuff, social media. I'm a big believer in anything that you can A/B test, like short-form media, direct response. That all fits into that. So how are you different from your competitor on that front? And what you're doing, again, needs to reinforce your brand. And the last one being the made-up P, which is play. Yeah, but who does that? Like, nobody does that.
Well, if you need a pair of AirPods, are you going to go in and get them at a store?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I specifically did that.
They'll ship it to you the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
But those retail stores exist for a reason. And when you think of the Apple brand, you think of an Apple store.
I think their online store is very sleek and very well
sleek.
designed. And the fact that if you have to book an appointment, if you want to get anything fixed through their website.
Okay. Let me express this the other way. And I'm not debating you.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah, I mean,
let me express this the other way.
Yeah.
What would it do for the Apple brand if you could buy them at every corner store?
I mean, you can buy Apple at Best Buy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crappy though.
No, but crappy in what way? Like the user experience?
Yes.
Do you think it's better than the Apple Store?
I think there's way less people because it's crappy, and so I like way less people, so I like to go there. But my point is, if you could buy an Apple everywhere,
It's a visual experience.
it would
at the store.
lose the exclusive nature.
I'll give you a better
and
one.
the genius nature. Well, mine's pretty good.
No, mine's better.
It would lose the experience.
I'll put it this way. Let's look into just step away from tech for a second, but specifically about exclusivity. You can't buy a Chanel online. You can't buy a Chanel bag online.
Exactly.
You can. But you buy a Louis Vuitton online. You know the difference between Louis Vuitton and it's
About 3,000.
a Louis
So
Vuitton.
2,500.
No, so you're looking at 7K versus 3K.
4.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
But you
What
can't
did I say initially? 3? That wasn't far off.
ballpark plus tax. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But that's kind of the point. If you're gonna buy a Chanel, you're gonna go into a store. You're gonna have the experience of being in the store, the visual
Right.
experience that you're talking about. But Louis Vuitton just wants to sell you a bag. They'll ship it to you for free.
Exactly. So, your 4 Ps, we won't spend a ton of time diving into these. You could do 4-year university degrees on each one of those Ps, or some segments of those Ps.
Yeah.
But the message I want to try and give you here is that you got to get this right. You can't have an exclusive product at a cheap price,
And
right?
that goes
That
back to the
damages
fact
your brand.
that-
You can't have a Chanel bag at $7,000 and then have it sold through Amazon.
Precisely. And I think what you brought up is that same way as SWOT, that they're not 4 independent quadrants. Same ways that the 3 C's are not just an exercise in listing, customers, company, and competitors. Those work together, and the whole point is to make the connections. And then the 3 C's are also related to the 4 P's, which are related to each other and have to be consistent. That your brand has to be consistent, not just through logo, anthem, flag, font, paperweight. It has to be consistent throughout the brand experience of price, place, promotion, and product.
All right. What else you got?
I think a good final question to wrap it up is that how do you measure brand effectiveness? Besides just saying revenue. Because revenue could be an issue of, not distribution or fill rates or salespeople, whatever else, but how do you measure brand effectiveness?
Define effectiveness.
Am I doing it right? You said you have to get it right. How do I know if I'm doing it right?
I think that that requires having an objective for your brand, right? So to me, when we're building a business, when we're working with clients, and branding is a thing. I mean, we're working at a manufacturing company right now. We produce product for a bunch of brands, but we're not in the branding business.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't matter. Right? We're working with other companies. We own other companies where brand is, it's really important. It drives it. So 100% of the time, I think about business in terms of shareholder value. Right? So cash flow is good because you need to survive, but at the end of the day, I think about shareholder value. So if you were to ask me about brand effectiveness, I'm not 100% sure what that means, but effective to me would be that it increases shareholder value, right? Or maybe it's a subset on the path towards creating shareholder value. An intermediary stop, a little gas station break, right? So for example, maybe part of creating the value, if you're in the tech business, if you have a platform, because you want to drive users to your platform, even if you're not generating immediate revenue, because at the end of the day, that turns into shareholder value 5 years from now, right? So I think to say, what is brand effectiveness? You have to first say, what is the objective of the brand before you can say effective. I think an interesting question though is, what is brand value? Because also while I was Ubering on my way here and I was Googling.
It's a long drive. Yeah.
It was. I could have walked faster.
Right.
It started telling me the value of the brand of Coke and the brand of Microsoft, and it was giving valuations because you can go to the asset appraisers right now. You can go to Hilco and Gordon Brothers and those sort of people. And you can say, I want a valuation on this brand. I want a value of my machinery and equipment. I want a value of my inventory. I want a value of my land and building, an appraisal on that. I want an appraisal on my receivables and my inventory. I want an appraisal on my brand. Right? And then the idea is that you could take that brand appraisal and flip it into an ABL margining facility and borrow a bunch of money on it.
Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes. Depends on the brand, depends on the lender, right? But I've done that before, for sure. But as a evaluator, which I am, here's the hard math. The hard math is you value the enterprise as a whole, which 100% of the time is the discounted future cash flow, discounted for risk and discounted for time to today. Okay, I don't care what valuation methodology you're using. That's what you're doing. Everything else is a shortcut.
And we've heard many
Okay.
valuation methodologies.
All right.
Yeah.
So you take your value of the entire enterprise today, and you deduct from that the value of your hard assets, your equipment, your receivables, your inventory, the hard assets. And the difference between those two things are your intangible assets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start thinking to yourself, so in other words, goodwill.
Yep.
And you start thinking to yourself, well, what is my goodwill? Well, it could be, I don't know, some team, right? So there's goodwill in that. I got a great customer list. There's goodwill in that. But one of the big ones is brand. Okay, and so that's the way you value a brand. You first value the business, you value the asset, the hard assets, and you deduct that, and you're left with the intangible assets. And then you try and figure out, is brand mostly what the intangible assets are.
Yeah.
That's the proper way to do it. Now, other people might tell you that there's a secondary market for brands, and that you could trade them. Sure, that's what they say.
I think it depends.
But if you're valuing Coca-Cola as a brand, you're valuing the business. Why? So in other words, why do people say Coca-Cola is such a valuable brand? I might argue it's because they have a lot of cash flow and not very many hard assets. They have a secret formula. It's an intangible asset, and people call that brand.
Yep. Awesome.
I don't know if that answered your question.
That's a good start.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Is it a good finish?